Have you ever gone to a barn hunt competition?
I have not. What's that?
Oh my god, it's a ball. We started working on a detection program, so I can tell the pest company, "Here's a trail, here's a runway, here's a harbage," so they can mass trap better. You've got one shot at a roof rat population, and once they know what you're up to, they're gone.
Jen, you are too
Yeah.
young to know what an Astro van is.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond the Pest. I'm Jen Sweeney Ingram,
And I'm Mike Thome.
and we are on episode 13. We've got an awesome episode for you today. We've got Kim Camera. She's the owner operator of the recently rebranded UC Paws. Now they are Coastal Canine Pest Solutions. She does a lot of amazing canine work going after insane rodent jobs, and she was awesome to listen to today.
She's got a great presence on social media, especially LinkedIn. If you want to see some cool rat videos, go check those out. And really excited to talk to her today.
Please enjoy this talk with Kim Camera. I was so curious because I hear so many companies now use bedbug dogs, but I was trying to rack my brain about what other companies use canine dogs, rat dogs or rodent dogs. I don't know. How many are there, Kim? Or are you a very small minority?
It's a small minority. Jeff Stafford's up in California. He's phenomenal. And Jeff and I, pass information and do a lot. He's got a huge, huge, $30 million pest company.
Wow.
And he has a canine program with it. And they are so funny. Those guys, I love them. We train together, we certify together. And the first time I met them, they come in and they look like SWAT. And I was like, oh my God, the police department's certifying with us today. And they got their uniform on and stuff, and they walk in with beagles. So they were certifying bed bug dogs. And they have a really good rodent program too. They actually have two of my dogs. So I had two dogs that was working here, and I liked them, but they just weren't what I was looking for, but they were still good. So I sent them to somebody who turned around and sent them to him. And I saw them on Facebook one day. I was like, "Those are my dogs." I was like, "Jeff, you
Wow.
got my dog." So it was kind of a fun full circle, and they're doing really well with him. And then there's a guy, Scott Mullaney in Virginia. And Scott's kind of the one that started this whole process maybe 10 to 12 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, and I think we all do it the same, but we all do it a little differently, so it's a nice mix. Those are the only ones I'm familiar with. I'm sure there's other people out doing it that I just don't know.
Yeah, because I heard you started in bed bug when you first got kind of into pest control, but what made you do the crossover into the rodents?
Well, I was trying to do rodents. I
Oh,
come from a wildlife background, and I was trying to do rodents just because I just 100% felt and still feel that this is a way to reduce our rodenticide, and it's a way of targeting, the usage of rodenticide. But will we ever get rid of it? No, because we're never going to get rid of the population. We're never going to get rid of people, sanitation issues, and they've been here forever. But I do think we can manage it better, and we can manage it more focused. And what we're seeing in some of our apartment complex, that's exactly what's working. We went into one and we killed 3,856 rats.
oh my
That's
God.
what we had in our buckets. I don't know what we killed underground because we use the Burrow RX to flush
Yeah.
the rodents. And we hand catch rats. The dogs are killing, removing rats. That's what we ended up with in 10 days. Then we go back quarterly. And by going back quarterly, we're sustaining it. Are the rodents still there? Sure, there's rodents still there, but we're keeping them at an undetectable level. So that's keeping the clients happy. It's retaining the client for the pest company. It's amazing. And it's such a great partnership. I mean, it is such a great partnership. I work with some of the best people ever when it comes to rodents. Um, so that's how I got started, and no one would listen to me. So I said, well, okay, I'll do bed bugs.
Huh.
And, Karen Pinobo is one of the people I first worked with in the pest industry, and I was doing bed bugs, and I said to her, "Hey, by the way, next year, we're starting a rodent program." And she spun around and looked at me and said, "I need it in 3 weeks." I was like, "Okay." I was not passing
Dang.
that up.
Yeah,
I
let's
was
go.
not passing that up. So I found the most incredible little dog named Leroy Brown and little tiny Patterdale that was not living in the best of conditions. And he was given to us, and we went into that restaurant with no expectations. I had not done this before. I had him for 2 weeks. That little dog solved the freaking issue. So we did the perimeter check. And all of a sudden, all I had was his butt in the air and his tail just going a mile a minute. And he went down into a burrow. And so it was in an azalea plant. And so then when we walked the rest of it, we really didn't find anything outside, but inside, he hit on a wall, just went crazy on this wall. And I was like, "You got rats?" "No, no, 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 we don't have it. You got rats." Well, 2 months later, they actually finally cut into that wall because they couldn't figure the rat issue out. And there was an old cast iron pipe that they didn't even know existed.
Bane of my existence, cast iron.
Yep, when he went in that burrow was the entrance, and they had chewed in to this cast iron pipe. They got into the French drain, they chewed into the pipe, and that was how there were just hundreds of rodents in that pipe. So, at least that's what was told back to me, just lots of signs. So once I took care of that, rodents gone. So that just showed me how incredible this could be.
Kim, you referenced it a couple times now, but like, what makes a good dog?
Yeah.
Is there a
It's a good
certain breed? Is it? Do you know what I mean? Like, what makes a good rat? And like, if it's a good rat dog, can it be a good bedbug dog? Do you cross train? How does all that work?
So, I do believe in cross training for certain things. If you're obviously doing explosives, and drug dogs, you don't want to cross train that. You want to know if you're going to get high or if you're going to blow up, one or the other.
Yeah.
You don't want to cross train. But as far as an environmental work, a lot of dogs are cross trained in environmental work because it's really a handler assisted canine assisted program. We verify so we know what we're looking for. Um, what I look for is a high drive dog that wants to play with a toy. For my rodent dogs, when I get that phone call that says my dog wants to kill or chase my cat, I want that dog. And I was like, I'm coming to get that dog. Those will make the really good prey driven dogs. So drive is different. So you have a really strong hunt drive that you're going to want for your detection dogs. Um, I was in a grocery store and I had our detection dog with us because, being that type of an issue, I don't really want a dog killing because of the sanitation of the rat. And the rat literally came up to my detection dog and they touched noses. He didn't know what to do with it. He's not an abatement dog. And
Wow.
and I'm screaming, "Kill it! Catch it!" And he just let it go right back under the refrigerator. But at least we knew where it was, and we ended up catching it later. A high prey driven dog would never have done that. It would have been toast right away.
Wow. Yeah, so you have the inside dogs and the outside dogs,
So
right?
we do, but our detection dogs work outside too because we
Okay.
get into that ivy and we can't find a lot of the burrows.
Sure.
And you can throw a detection dog out there and they'll nail it really quick. What I like about detection dogs, they find the fecal, they find the urine, they find old herbage, old nests. They're just not looking for the live animal. And when you take your abatement dog out, and we figured this out, we're one of the few people that actually train them separately because I was taking my abatement dogs into, these million square foot warehouses. They were just chasing the mouse. They weren't giving me any signs. And after the second building, I'm like, we're doing this so wrong. So we came back and we started working on a detection program. And I want to know so I can tell the pest company, here's a trail, here's a runway, here's a harbage, so they can mass trap better. So it's all about giving my pest companies the information to help them do their job better. These technicians, they have such a limited time when they go into these huge facilities. And then they have pallets that can't get through pallets 9 inches wide, and the dogs can. And once we give them that information, it's easy for them then to take care of the problem.
So those dogs don't do the same thing. You have like a detection dog and then you have an abatement dog.
I have
And
2 different dogs, right. I
okay,
have detection and I have abatement, and my abatement dogs, they're gonna let me know some information, but they're not as nearly detailed as the detection dogs.
gotcha. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, can you get into your background again? And like, I'm sure a lot of this now has been a lot of trial and error, figuring out just the dog's personalities and what they can do, what they can't do. Like you mentioned that one dog who just bumped noses, but like, yeah, I guess let's just go through your background. How does one even end up in something like this? And also, like, what makes you pull the plug and say, "I love this so much, I want to make a business out of this"?
Well, I've been in the animal world since 1986, and I worked in the zoo worlds, and I did a lot of training of exotic animals. I also went to Africa and did some training with free-ranging giraffes, which was a lot of fun back in the day. Yeah, I'm a falconer, a bird bander. All these things just build who I am. And then I was on FEMA for quite a while, and I ran cadaver dogs and live fine dogs. So this was this just kind of was a natural flow for me. So when I retired off of FEMA, just because I'm old, I'm fat, and that is a very demanding job. It's just I'm
Yeah, I can imagine.
64 years old. I'm like, "Oh my." So when my last 2 dogs retired out, I didn't wanna bring on 2 more dogs. It's a 10-year commitment. I'd be 74 years old walking across that rubble.
Okay.
So I didn't last very long doing nothing. So my dogs needed a job. And so we started this program, and it's gone very, very well. Our bed bug work is very, very busy. Rodent work is amazing. It's coming up fast. We have a goose harassment program and a goose dogs that find nests so we can treat the nests, and then we can shoo the little birds away more naturally. And so we're quite busy, quite involved with the dogs in our lives, I guess.
How big is your team right now?
Huh?
How big is your team right now?
How big is a team? I've got 4 contract handlers, and my grandson has moved down to actually work in the business. He graduated a year early, so
Wow.
he's here having an absolute ball. And then it's me and my elderly husband, 68 and 64 we are, and we realize we need young blood and we need it quick. Bending over is getting harder. So,
Could you imagine just looking back 5, 10 years ago that you would have been doing this and how well it
no.
would be taking off?
No, but I just you know what I wished I would have done? I wish I would have got into the pest control industry in my 30s. I think up until my 30s, I was probably, I was freelancing all over the world chasing birds and banding birds, but I had no idea how involved pest control is until I really got in depth with this dog program. I thought it was just that, all I saw was a little canister and the little spraying. And this field is amazing. The problem solving, the scientific, the research. I went out to the Vector Pest Conference and spoke in California, and I was just amazed at the research that's going on. And it was such a small population of people there speaking, and it was fascinating. And so that's where we're kind of headed. We're in this field every day. We're catching so many rats. I mean, I really thought we were behind the curve, to be honest. I hand everybody a bucket and I tell them they're not eating until they fill the bucket with rats. It's a 5-gallon bucket, fill it. You're not leaving. And that's how we started. So we're starting to talk to like Dr. Richardson from Virginia University, Luigi Richardson from
Awesome.
Canada. I love Luigi and, getting involved in providing data for them. We're not researchers, but we can provide the data and help them answer some of these questions. And so I just think it's so valuable to bring to the table. Um, I'm very passionate at reducing the rodenticide usage at all these sites. We do a lot of dumpster sites at apartment complexes. Every site has the local red tail, the local owl, the wild cats. We literally I raise rats here at the house to train on. We
Wow.
will literally take clean rats to the site to hand to those red tails. And literally you can just throw them and they'll just pounce right on them. These are usually juveniles that are hanging out. They've been, they've been raised in the area, and they've just been hanging out, and those dumpster areas are a great feeding station for these young dumb birds. I've never seen an adult. We just see the young birds. So I just think the more we can, as an industry, the more we can talk about reducing and focusing, the better we'll be as an industry. Plus, the rules and regulations are changing so much right now, anyways. Canine is a really good tool to help reduce it quickly. I mean, if we can go in there in 10 days and take out 3,000 rats, that's a lot of rats. And that now allows pest control to be used more effectively, at least in my opinion.
So Kim, I know a lot of the bedbug handlers I've worked with in the past, in order you made a joke about fill the bucket or else you can't eat. But like a lot of the bedbug handlers I've worked with in the past, it's the same thing. Like you got to find the hides before the dog can eat. How do you do that with rodents? Like you just like let a rat loose in the house and say go find it, or like how does that work?
No, and with our bed bug team, we don't use food for motivation. Our dogs are so high drive, they just want a toy,
Okay,
and so we don't withhold food for them. I know some handlers, it's kinda like the thing, like, you find it or you're not gonna eat, and with us, our dogs eat all the time. They're kind of, they're kinda chunky, some of them, so they're but, as far as the rats go, we train in tubes. So
okay.
we use, have you ever seen barn hunting?
I'm
A
sorry,
lot of my barn hunt. Have you ever gone to a barn hunt competition?
I have
Yeah.
not. What's that?
Oh my god, it's a ball. So they have just this bunch of hay, it's dressed out like a barn setting, and it depends on what level you're hunting, and there's rats hidden in the hay, and the dogs have to find it. I started all
Okay,
my puppies competing in barn hunt, so they
Wow.
learn to use their nose. So the reward for them is actually the rat. They don't have to kill it. They can play with the
gotcha.
tube. They'll just play with the tube, so when we're training, I put them in Home Depot. I'll stick them. I just walk in with rats and hide them in all different types of places. So I do hide the rat, but
Okay,
they're in a tube so the dogs can find them that way.
gotcha, gotcha.
I'm like,
Okay.
what am I doing? Who are my friends? We're not doing barn hunts.
No. Also, a side note, if I ask my wife, like, "Hey, you wanna go to this barn hunt here today?"
We can bring beer.
Like, no,
Yeah.
we're not gonna do that,
And
Mike. You know what
and
I mean? So
and they and then we got our real barns where, we volunteer for a lot of, like, hobby farms. We'll volunteer for, people that are just barn issues, local people, just to give the dogs a place to practice. We'll go in and help them, just reduce that population. With mice, I like to stay away from mice except for detection. Those little critters can be so full of rodenticide, and with the resistance, and since we're just learning a lot about that, um, I don't want my dog to swallow it, and it's like a little pig in the blanket,
Oh,
they get that little mouse, they'll swallow it before you can say swallow don't swallow it.
mm.
So I stay away from mice as far as, abatement goes, but there's a lot of other things we do to catch them if we take the dogs in. So we put nets up, we do a lot of barrier work, we do a lot of net work, we do a lot of hand grabbing, so we can still remove things, we just are a little creative with it.
Gosh, I can't even imagine what this looks like in practice. I would love to be the passenger in Kim's vehicle with her husband trotting down the road with all your animals and rats in a bag, and I can't even
Well,
imagine
the ones
that.
I feel sorry for is when we go to these restaurants after we've worked at a rat-infested dumpster area all day, and then we go into a restaurant stinking, and then we're talking about all the rats and the great kill. Those are the people I feel sorry for because 'cause they're listening to our conversation. But you're welcome to come out. We have people that go out with us quite a bit and
That's
just come
amazing.
in and help us catch them.
Well, it kind of reminds me of, like, some bed bug teams that I've worked with where they will camp out at the house for, maybe a night and probably more like one night, but you're there for multiple days at a location, aren't you?
We are, and it used to be 7 to 10. And now
Wow.
we've got that 7 to 10 down to 3 to 5. Just the more experience we get and the better the dogs get, the quicker we can move. That whole first 24 hours is nothing but observation. We move in, we mark all the burrows, we're watching movement while we're marking burrows, we're recording what time they're moving, what paths they're taking. And by the way, I've never seen a rat run a straight line unless I'm chasing it. They run haphazard like any other animal across the street and over here.
Mm.
But once you put pressure on them, then they will hug that wall to get into their cubby hole or into a burrow. But most of the time, it's just a little cubby hole that they just know to get into to get away from us. But yeah, so that whole first 24 hours is observation. And then that first kill is so important because after we start blowing the burrow RX into the burrows, the rats are running like crazy. The dogs are catching, we're catching. We keep track, we bucket those, and at the end of the day, we count them. And then after we count them, we age and sex them. And that tells us if we've reached, maximum capacity of that area. The last one we did, it was 695 rats the first day. It was 80% males. Every rat we were looking at was an adult. There wasn't a juvenile in that 695. So that was my wake up moment of, oh my God, where's the satellite colonies?
Oh God.
Where's the protective maternal colonies? What are we missing? And so then we had to take a step back because if we just would have went by that, that's a lot of rats. You'd think you were done. No, that is where we killed 3,856 rats. We found two satellite colonies and they were using those retainer railroad ties and retainer walls, and they were tucked down in those retainer walls. They had a rock wall. That was a mess. There was just everything in a rock wall.
Yep.
um and then under the dumpster, that seems to be where the females, the older males, the females, juveniles, nesting or pregnant females, nursing females, juveniles, and older males seem to go when they reach high capacity. And we get down there with a thermal scope and we can see hundreds, just they're just going up into the dumpster and down, up into the dumpster and down. So they're never seen. I mean, it's brilliant. They're so protected. They're out of eyes view. They're out of their, predation is low because they're under the dumpster. They have collected or somehow all this dirt gets under the dumpster and they build these very shallow, I call them warmy, just something to keep them warm and keep them off the concrete. But and all their little treasures will be under there, um, and they'll just go straight up and feed and then straight down. So they never really come out. That's the last colony we'll attack before we leave, and we make them pull the dumpster out. They'll pull that whole dumpster out, get it out of there for the day, and then we just start scooping up junk and dirt and cleaning that up. And by the time we're done, all the rats are out of there because we've caught them, and it's a clean concreted floor now. They'll pressure wash it. It'll be done.
Kim, I think you brought up a valid point. I think I've had a lot of technicians over the years ask me why it's important to sex rodents. Like, why do we care? We're here to kill things, right?
Yeah.
But understanding the ratio of males to females, right, in a
Yeah.
population, you know what I mean? That it's usually pretty close to 1 to 1. So to your point, if you pull out 800 males and I haven't found a single female, guess what? You got a whole lot of females running around someplace, and your job is not done, right? So.
Right, you've gotta find those, and if we come in and we just treat that area, and 2, when they come in, they're just seeing 30, 40 rats run, and everybody's infestation level tolerance is different, and 30 to 40 rats to the normal person, oh my god, but then we sit there at night, we see a little more, we see a little more, but we're still not seeing the tip of the iceberg until we start flushing those burrows, and we will flush them until there is nothing else coming out. Then we go back the next month. And at this particular facility, I was looking at my notes so I could talk about it. We went back 35 days later. The burrows, 32% of the burrows were opened back up. So we started gassing. We were catching and pulling out nursing and pregnant females and juveniles, 3% adult males. So we had such a massive kill off.
Wow.
And it was such an adult population. I mean, it was crazy. The burrow system was 30 feet wide and almost 100 yards long. It backed up. It was in a green space, city park on one side, apartment dumpster on the other side. And they were just coming under under to eat back and forth, back and forth. But I didn't realize, to be honest, Mike, until we had that job, how important it was to age and sex everything we do. So it just gives us such information of what we have to go look for. But then are we giving our technicians time to do that? You
Mhm.
know, some companies now are paying, on incentive pay. I'll pay you for what you get done. Well, no technician is going to spend an hour here, and to go get that done. And are we encouraging this? How could we know it because we stay up 24 hours and we're watching from 6 a.m. till about 3 to 4 a.m. Just the whole entire cycle. And that's hard for a technician to come in and do when they have all these other clients that they have to take care of.
Well, that's what I was thinking about too. It's just how our systems have been set up for so long. And so,
Yep.
most companies aren't set up for that much inspection. And it reminded me of some articles that came out in ESA talking about the death of the naturalist, how we
Mhm.
just don't have the time to observe nature anymore and it's kind of decreasing. And I know that's something Luigi's passionate about too, is just observation. So when it
It
comes to rodents, I'm sure Dr. Corrigan loves hearing your stories because I hope you write all this down too, because that information is so, like, important. How big these colonies are, the ratios. That's awesome field work, Kim.
Thank you. And I think the only reason that where other people aren't seeing it is they're not sitting there flushing for 5 days and removing them. And two, I think the data is very valuable, when if a technician can say, I pulled, 3 rats out of a box or whatever, but that data will take so long to get to 1 rat at a time, 2 rats at a time. It's really hard to put that data together quickly on what you're dealing with. So where if we can go in there and just boom, it's done. And we've got another apartment complex this week. So we got to get it 3 days to go get that done. I'm gonna try to do it in 3 days. We're trying, we push ourselves. It's like, what do we have to do to get in there and get this done now in 3 days? It's more cost effective for the client. It gives the pest control company more data. I think we're an excellent tool for a pest company. We can't do it by ourselves. I think it's a good partnership.
Mm. When you're aging the rodents, are you just doing juvenile and then adult, or do you get more specific than that?
Yeah, I wish I could. The way to get more specific, you have to take the cornea out of the eye and
Oh, Lord.
age it. Yeah, that's not happening with me in the fields. I'm
Yeah.
not, I'm not picking the cornea off of a rat's eye and
Yeah, if
not
it's left from the
happening.
dogs and the
Yeah, so it's kinda like, you just get that look of that old shaggy male, the old shaggy female, and then, of course, size. I think everybody has always with rodents have kinda gone by size, and you look at teeth, like, we keep looking at teeth, we don't see anything different with the teeth, so it's more just by size. And I was talking to Jonathan Richardson, he says, "Yeah, the only really true way to do it is the cornea of the eye." Not happening with me. So, with
Right after your barn party, you just go you do some cornea removal from rats, and sounds like a hell of a Saturday night, Kim.
I think Luigi's gonna be working on his PhD, and I have a project in mind.
Yeah. I would have all the eyes he could ever want.
Oh my god, these poor grad students.
Well, we're already talking about tails, like, I'm doing measurements for, Doctor, Richardson in, Virginia Tech, so we're taking all of his measurements, and Luigi and I are talking about he's gonna come to a job, we're gonna see what we can do and what kinda questions we can help answer, so he could put a project together. I could take all the tail samples we possibly need for resistance, which I think would be really awesome. If you've got 600 rats, you can test, you would definitely know if there's resistance in that colony. I don't like the let's pick up the fecal and send the fecal because how do you know if it's 1 rat, 10 rats, 2 rats? How do you know how many rats you really just tested? And
Mhm.
so I rather just have the individual tails and send those in. But
Kim, do you have some kinda tie to Ohio?
do what?
Do you have some kinda tie to Ohio? You posted something about bird banding in Ohio, and then
I
also I
do.
feel like you were at the OPMA, Ohio Pest Management Association meeting not too long ago. Do you have some kinda tie up here, or
I grew up in Ohio. I'm a Buckeye. Yay! I'm an Ohio
so
State
I
Buckeye.
live in Cleveland, so
I grew up in a little tiny town called Bell Center, Ohio.
Okay.
It's near Bell Fountain, Columbus, that, it's
Yep.
kind of Toledo, all in that area. A little tiny town, about 1,800 people
Okay.
still to this day. Um, so yeah, so I grew up there. I used to do a lot of bird banding and catching birds of prey, taking samples of birds. I started in Ohio actually, and that I think that was when I posted. I ran across that article. We found the first eagle's nest that far inland in Ohio, and it was on Killdeer Plains. And I was there because we were there to show that that's a huge migratory spot for birds, even though it was so inland. And we were finding merlins, we were finding saw-whet owls, snowy owls, all the big migrants that come in. And we went past this huge nest and did a double take and went back, me and a professor, and stood there and stared at it, and an eagle flew right out of it. So that was just, yeah, that was kind of a neat moment.
You've always
I've
been an
done a lot of
animal.
wildlife. Yeah, I've done a lot of wildlife stuff.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
I kind of want to hear more about the giraffes too, and like some of your previous work.
So I went over to Africa to help with. I was supposed to be helping with elephants because the locals get their everything trampled on, and they're so dangerous. And so we were working with how can we teach the locals to detour these animals. And it turned out we worked more with giraffes than we did with the elephants, because the elephants came and the elephants went. Every once in a while they had a lone bull, and a lot of times that bull had to be um, called just because it became very dangerous. Like, we just went to South Africa this year and went through a couple small towns, and in these tiny little towns, here comes a herd of 30 elephants. And we found out about 6 months before that, there were some locals trampled by elephants because
Oh,
of the aggressiveness. And so it's a real, it's a real fight for locals over there. And so we were working with the drafts on just to keep them out of the food plots. How do we keep, how do we help the villagers keep them out without destroying the animal? So
oh,
it was, yeah. And then Cape May was bird banding, a lot of birds, was Cape May. So, yeah, grizzly bears in Alaska at one point in time. This is when all of my younger days. So,
that's
yeah.
so cool. Yeah, I mean, you're definitely used to traveling for work. So nowadays, you stay within like the U.S. when you are called to go do this
I
sort of.
will go anywhere to talk about rats. I went down to Mexico and got to teach with the regional pest conference, and then I got Burrow RX, who was wonderful. They donated equipment. They donated a Burrow RX for there. Richard Mead with the sewer assassin gave a smoke machine. So a lot of American companies were helping the pest company there, and they were helping the association, because now the association has all this great equipment and they're loaning it out to pest companies. So now they can go to the association, learn how to use some of this equipment, and then take it out for the day. They don't have to buy it. They can just use it. And then we went out on a safari. We took them on a rodent safari. I thought we would have 20 people. We took 172 people on a rodent safari.
Mm.
Not fun.
Not
Not fun. We did see a lot, but all these people standing on hay, the rodents didn't really pop out that easy. And we were dealing with roof rats too, so that made it even harder. So
I wanted to ask you about that. Yeah, Mike, were
about
you
roof
going to ask
No,
the
I was
same
gonna say
thing?
the same thing. So when you guys are working Norways versus roof rats, what's the difference in how you guys approach those two? Obviously, behaviors are very different. So what's your difference in how you approach them?
well, what's fascinating, and I'll send you guys this video. So if a roof rat, in our experience, it has never had pressure on it. They are the most curious little animals you have ever seen. So we do these hobby farms, and there's a lot of roof rats, and they don't put poison out. They don't shoot them. They just get fed up with them pretty soon, and then here we come. They are running down to see what we're doing. I had my cell phone set up on a post, and I think it's on my one of my posts on LinkedIn. He just ran right up to me. My camera was here, and he's just looking right at me, wanted to know, "Well, what are you? What are you doing?" And then when we got into the barn, they were running to us. Then I opened up this cabinet, and it was loaded with roof rats, loaded.
I saw
And
that
I
video.
saw
they
that one.
didn't
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they didn't run.
It was
They
crazy.
just, like, "How you doing?" And they wanted to know what we were, and they were curious, and you could see, they're just feeling with their whiskers and trying to smell and just casually went away. So to me, what we're seeing, roof rats are kind of the clown of the rat world until there's pressure, and then they're gone. It's just then they become the most unsocial, neophobic thing you've ever seen. Um, so you've got one shot at a roof rat population, and once they know what you're up to, they're gone. They just don't like the conflict, they just leave. And so I always look at roof rats as a clown and as the Gulf classic, and I always look at Norways as the Harley riders and the campers. They're just they're gonna have the camp hung out, and they're not leaving no matter what. You can do whatever you want to 'em, they are not leaving. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, and dogs aren't that roof rats aren't really a dog job.
Yeah.
It's really not an event for a dog. It's hard to if we can get them to the ground, if we can't catch them and we knock them to the ground, the dogs catch them. But normally it's more detection for roof rats. Yeah, find out how they're we were just in Texas and they thought they were dealing with a roof rat. And we went outside and we did a perimeter search and they actually had not cotton rats, wood rats. They had wood rats. We
Uh-huh.
caught 2. And so we found the trail, the dogs trailed him for 3 days, we were finding the trail, and it was the same trail every day, pick up the poop, same trail, pick up the poop, same trail. But we never saw the rat one time. But when we got up into the ceiling, up into the rafters, you could see footprints all over the place. So,
Huh.
very, very so I'm now I brought the 2 rats home that we killed, so I want positive ID on them. And, I'm getting a mix of someone saying, "That's a cotton rat, that's not a wood rat, it's not a Norway rat, not a roof rat." So, hopefully I can find out what they are for sure.
Hmm. My mind is just racing. I don't
It's a
know.
it's an
I
odd to talk about, I'm sorry.
No,
It's
no,
such amazing work. I really I envy you and then not at the same time. It's just what you created is so amazing. I would love to see it. But where do you find people if you're talking about expanding your team maybe, I mean, it seems like you're just gonna grow and there's only so much traveling you can do, like, yourselves, right? So,
There
where do you
is.
find people?
We don't. It's so hard to find people to work nowadays, and especially when you say, "Here, fill a bucket up with rats." Everybody wants to work with the dog. Everybody
Right.
wants to handle the dog. Everybody wants to have the canine experience, but nobody wants to handle a rat. Um, I had a guy that we just loved here. He had to move back to DC. Big old brute. Oh my God, he was so afraid of rats. He did. He was he was not and I've had guys that have worked with this that all of a sudden be screaming, "I need help, I need help," and they're stepping on the tail of a rat, and we gotta run 100 yards to get the rat from them. So it's really is a passion. I think pest control in general, it's a passion, or you're not gonna survive
Fair.
in it anyways. I think
Mhm.
this is not a job. It's more than a career. It's a passion to have. So, and we definitely have that here. Um, and I think it helps. So I like the puzzle. I like,
There you go.
solving the puzzle and looking at the natural history of the animal. I enjoy that a lot. It just takes me back to, my roots, basically.
Yeah.
Bed bugs are fine too.
Are they?
Yeah, bed bugs are fun. You know, I get so excited when I find a bug. I'm like, "We got a bug," and I keep forgetting the people that have the bug are not that excited.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well,
"I
you're
got one,
helping
I got
people.
one."
You're helping people at the end of the day, and
Yeah. Well, we do a lot of education, and then one of the things that we're finding in our education programs, we do it in the senior living homes, is it's nothing to be embarrassed about.
Mhm.
You're living your life. You're out there getting bugs because 'cause you're living your life. You just transported it home. So we have most of our properties below 2%, and most of our properties are high rises. So between our detection, and then we've worked really well with most of the pest companies and getting them to respond a little quicker in the high rises. It's really made a difference in keeping them below that 2% threshold. With University of Tennessee, bed bug researchers are like, if you can do that, then that's about all you can do. At 2% is pretty good. So
2% is great. I
yeah,
remember hearing some talks where they were like, we're at all this work, we're still at 30, 20%, you know?
yeah. Like everything else, usually it's just because 2 people won't stop going into somebody else's,
Mhm.
apartment, or they won't do what they're supposed to do, and so my goal is always to keep them from not getting kicked out, because most of these people have nowhere else to go, educating them on not being embarrassed and ashamed of what they have. But I will tell you the best one we have, you were talking, Mike, about dual training. We just started dual training one of our dogs, Quill, on rodents and bed bugs. Let's see what happens here. So we're doing this house as a low income, and he hits on a chair, and we hadn't found any signs of bed bugs whatsoever in this place. It was filthy, but no bed bugs. And I'm like, can I look in your chair? Because he was still sitting in it. And I picked it up and there was a flattened mouse. There was a flattened mouse in this chair. I got pictures of
Oh,
it. Very large man, flattened mouse in the chair. And so now I'm like, oh, we got to look now, closets. And now we're pulling things out and he's chewed through the closet. So, we Quill found that. Um, and someone said to me once, well, if he's a bed bug dog and now he's doing mice, how do you know? I says, well, bed bug poop's a lot smaller than mouse poop or rat poop. And we verify everything. I think we stand a little different than some people because I feel we need to verify it. I think the pest company needs to know that it's verified. If we can't, exactly why we couldn't verify it. Was it in the couch? Was it, whatever, why we could not verify that. So they know how to treat better. And so you can identify mouse activity versus bed bug activity pretty easy. So he is cross trained and he has saved the day so many times. Um, Working Dogs for Conservation is an excellent organization and they are out in Montana. They've had several dogs from me. All their dogs are cross-trained. I gave them a dog that was on 18 odors. By the time
wow.
she died, 18 odors. You work an odor that you're going to do. So, like, if I know I'm doing apartment complexes with Quill all week, we're just working bed bugs, bed bugs, bed bugs. That's all he gets rewarded for. And that's what he's going to find. But is he going to locate on mice? Yes, he has found mice in low income. So that's good.
Okay.
That's another issue the pest company needs to know about.
I guess in my head, I'm thinking of search and rescue where you have to, you give them a piece of clothing from the missing person and the dog goes and tries to find that person. But if you're constantly working in bed bug, it's not like you have to have the dog sniff a bed bug or a rat fecal dropping before they go out. They're just trained in it. That's cool.
Yeah, we're just trained. And that's a good point. So you have your trailing tracking dogs, and you've got your trailing tracking dogs that can do odor specific. So yes, you would give them, an item, and that's how they're trained to do that. They're trained, seriously trained how to just, dissect that. Most of our search dogs, they're trained to just air scent. They're just going. So in FEMA, we go to an earthquake or 9/11 or a hurricane. You literally are just walking up to the site, unhooking your dog and going, search. They catalog everybody that's standing there. They're not looking for anybody. They're looking for what they can't see. So they can see you. They know they don't have to find you or you. You're not in the play. The human odor that they can't the person they can't see is what they're looking for. And that brings a good point up is that's why these dogs are so valuable is they find what we can't see. A great technician, a good technician, a mediocre technician can go in and find a bed bug infestation. But what about that one bug in a screw on the headboard? You got to take that whole bed apart to find that. So
Mhm.
where if we can get the dog to the odor, he's going to find it. Um, One thing that I'm writing an article on this whole thing about dogs are 98% accurate. Have you heard that? Bed bugs 98% accurate. It's usually used on every flyer, every bed bug website, everything as a marketing tool. There were studies done, but they were in the lab. Everything very controlled. You knew exactly how many hides were there, so you could calculate that. You could measure that. You can't measure in the real field. You don't know what you've missed.
Right.
Did we just go past a chair that there were bugs in because I found bugs over here? Did we miss something? So dogs aren't infallible. And I think the dogs are as only good as the handler, to be honest. The dog is not the variable, it's the handler that's the variable. How well we read our dogs, how hard we train. Do we get the dogs to the odor? Do we understand what the dog's telling us? if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I would imagine that like air movement in a space has a lot to do with how
Mm.
effective the dogs can be, right? You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like if we're picking up scents and there's a ceiling fan going, or do you know what I mean, the window open or anything along those lines, that's going to negatively impact that dog's ability to narrow it down, right?
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
it's huge. And you'll see them start to bracket. So they'll get to odor and their heads will go up and they'll bracket. They'll go here, they'll go here, they'll go here. And they just go in and out of odor. And okay, it's here. And maybe the bug is clear down here, but because of the flow of the environment, the way the air currents in that, if they cook something, if they have a fan, oh God, I hate going in when they have those smelly candles and it's so hard to pick out one tiny little bed bug when
yeah,
there's all that smell in there.
Mhm.
So there's so many factors, and when they did the study in a lab, they didn't mimic any of those studies.
yeah.
They didn't mimic airflow, different distractions, cats, dogs, lizards, birds, the air conditioning on, like you say, windows open, fans going, and it's just so unrealistic to ask these people to turn that all off. It's just they're not gonna do it. You're gonna waste so much time trying to get them to do it. So you really just have to learn to work in the environment as it is. And I think our dogs do a pretty good job, but we train for it too.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense that, like, now I have so much more appreciation for the companies, the pest control companies that do already have canine for bed bugs or whatever they've got, just because you do have to train them all the time. So that is a big expense. And so I guess it makes sense. You work with pest control companies. So and is that the majority of your work? The calls coming in are from pest control companies or from the public sector?
So
From
our rodent work is 100% pest control driven, and I like that. I think
Okay.
it should be pest control driven. We have an operator's license, but we have an operator's license so we can work rodents freer. But we'll leave the pest control up to the specialists. Um, for bed bugs too, really. But like when you get into training, we train all the time. And, sometimes the pest companies who have dogs, that handler is also a pest technician or a salesman. They don't just focus on the dog, and so they don't have a lot of time to train those dogs, and it's exhausting for that handler. So, usually that handler burns out, the dog goes to another dog or another handler. Um, I have friends in the pest control world that work for some big box companies. I told them I promised I wouldn't name them. Good big box companies, but they don't have enough time to train.
Right.
And their dogs always suffer. They feel like their training is always suffering because of that. There's just some things is better if you just contract out. You don't have to
Yeah.
worry about it. Contract it out, and then be done with it, and you get all the upsell to it, and you don't have to provide a van, the dog, the up care of the dog. So there is a lot of expense for the pest company to have that dog. So
Yeah.
Hey Kim, so you a couple times you'd mentioned that this place has one of your dogs or this place has one of your dogs. So we kind of talked about like what makes a good one and what you're looking for, but like do you raise them from puppies? Do you like rescue them? Like what is it a range of things? Like where do they come from?
it's a range of things. I've gotten dogs from the pound.
Okay.
I love rescuing dogs. The problem with rescue dogs, at some point in time, they might put on the brakes, because you don't know how they were raised environmentally.
Yeah.
And we've gotten dogs from breeders. We 3 of our dogs are in Utah from an awesome kennel out there. They're field cocker spaniels. I have a dog that was a flunky from what does he do? He was a diabetic dog for a child who had severe
Oh yeah.
high and low. Yeah, well, I'm a diabetic, and the dog's never alerted, so it did not do well.
Oh.
That's why they failed him out. He certified in a week. He came in because he already knew odor, but now we
Yeah.
had to change odor. Oh my god, the dog's phenomenal. It took us a while to put him in the field to trust him, but he's certified. And so we get them from all aspects. People's pets that they don't wanna use, the pound breeders. I have bred a couple times just to get dogs for me and my other friends that do this work.
Oh.
I don't sell them. I just make sure they go to good homes. I don't wanna be a dog vendor, so they just go to good homes. I do believe in certification. There's a big argument now about that, but I believe in a third party saying, "Yes, your dog knows odor." Now that's all it's saying. It doesn't say your dog can hunt and your dog's amazing or your dog can, but it says your dog knows odor. And so we certify with NASDECA, CPDA, International Resort Casino Working Dog Association,
Mm.
and I think that's it, WDDO. So there's 4 groups that we certify with. And that also helps us find the holes in our training. Why because, when you're working all the time, you ruin your dog because you're not you might reward when you shouldn't reward, or you don't reward when you should reward. And so you really can start, putting your dog off his game. So, training is where you fix all that. And so we train and we certify.
How often is that certification? Is it a one and done where you kinda crate up all the dogs and say, "Alright, boys, we're going to this place
Yep.
today."
Going to war. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's a one and done, it's annually. So
Okay.
we space them out. So about every quarter we're hitting somebody's certification. And
Yeah.
then we do our own kind of in-house, you suck, work your dog more, certification.
Oh my gosh. You're
Yeah,
a workhorse. This is amazing.
but I think you bring up a good point there, Kim, in that if there are companies out there that want to start looking to build a relationship with a rodent dog or a bedbug dog, that you know, there was the running joke all the time that, like, if when bedbugs just blew up, there was every city you went to, there was like some handwritten sign nailed to a telephone pole that says, "We kill bedbugs,"
Yeah.
call this number, whatever. But they
Yep.
weren't pest control companies. It was some guy who went to Home Depot and bought something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're looking to start to work with a bedbug dog or a rodent dog, and obviously Kim, you'd be the first choice. But if we're going out to look for stuff, like what are some things they should look for? You mentioned certifications, right? You know what I mean? I mean, literally, could I tomorrow take my German Shepherd and be like, "Oh, he's a bedbug dog," because there's
You
no oversight for this stuff. So what should our listeners be looking for
At
if they're
least
trying
a
to make it?
certification, and then your insurance. You need your liability, you need your vehicle insurance, your liability insurance, your workers' comp, and your certification for training. I think if somebody has all those, they're serious, they're training, they got a lot of money invested, they're going to work those dogs. I've had people ask me for a demo. Can you come demo your dog? Um, I will let I reluctantly let people hide odor. That's dangerous because they don't get odor and how it moves, and they could put it in front of a door and it's just being blown everywhere. But they will let them hide the odor. And I always say 4 feet and under because that's where our dogs are going to search. In
Mhm.
training, we do curtains, we do windows, we do all the stuff that, we could possibly find a bed bug, but we're also searching those ourselves. But I think those 4 things, we've got our vehicle insurance, our workers' comp, our liability, and of course the certification. And it needs to be a recognizable certification, not an in-house certification. Anybody can run in-house and not too many people are going to fail their dogs. You just, I don't know if I would be like,
Yeah.
well, he would have got it yesterday.
Yeah.
So we need I think that third party certification it shows that the odor. And that's why we do them on a quarterly basis. So,
Mm. So you mentioned that pest control companies will use you like a third-party contractor.
mhm.
Now, do you ever kind of recommend contractors out? Like, say, if you needed to really open up an area, or do you guys do any exclusion work yourselves? Or I imagine you're just
We
kind of
do.
recommending.
We do smaller rodent exclusion. I mean, we don't have booms and lifts and all that, but we do exclusion, and we do bird exclusion too. So we do a lot of bird trapping, a lot of bird exclusion. So, we get into some of the national counts,
That's
and
awesome.
but mostly right now we're doing large warehouses, and then we'll give them suggestions, and if the pest company wants suggestions, we'll give it. Otherwise, we do our job, and when they say, "So what do you think?" I think you should talk to your pest company because, they've been there full time, and I don't want to get into that he said, we said. Well, Kim said to do this. When the pest company knows the facility, they know the route they want to take, and by something silly that I say, they might just take them in a whole worthless direction. So we're pretty quiet when it comes to that. But we do get hired out for rodent exclusion. We do get hired out for bird trapping and bird exclusion from pest companies.
Wow. Do you ever, when do you say no to a job? Like, do you go get a call and say, "Oh, that sounds like it's not big enough for my dogs," or what does that look like?
I've never said no, but the one we just did down in Texas, I wanted to have a meeting with all the powers that be because I said, It's one rat." I said, "This is gonna be the most expensive rat you've ever had in your life," and I said, "What have you tried?" And I just made them understand that we probably were not gonna see that rat or catch that rat. Well, it turned out we caught 2 rats, and we found a lot of information they didn't know about. So it was worth it, but I like to set their expectations, and I did have a pest co I did turn one down. I was in Kansas. It was a rat in a school, and they had it on video every night, just coming out and wallowing down and looking in the camera, same route every night. I was like, "What are you feeding it?" And he told me. I says, "Well, what is it eating?" And he told me. I says, "Well, put that on the trap." They caught it the next night. I said, "If you don't
Awesome.
catch it, I'll come, but it just makes more sense for you guys to catch it." It was gonna be like 15 grand. I mean, that's ridiculous, for a rat. And so they caught it and they were very happy. So I did say, "I'll come if you need me to, but I think you guys can handle this just fine."
Mhm.
So, and it
Well,
was
in our
the pest company that called me. So
That's awesome. In our last episode, Mike and I were talking about because he's got experience with rats in zoos and on airplanes.
I
And
did that once.
I was curious. I wondered if you had any stories.
I don't want to fly ever again.
Oh. That's so bad. It's
I
bad
am
enough at the restaurants.
I'm just the opposite. I've seen every inch of an airplane, and I'm more confident in flying now than I ever was before.
Oh my god.
It's the
So
people on the
my
airplane that grosses me out too,
story
not the plane.
oh, so my one experience was they flew us into Chicago and we were looking at this plane and you could smell them. So
Oh, no.
we get into the belly of the plane and they took the skin off of it and the grease was insane. The nest
Really?
was huge. No rats in it. They'd already fumigated. They used CO2. And but it didn't kill it. He said, "But they're still running around." And I says, "Well, did you put a monitor in? And how long did you hold the pressure? And how high did it get?" And he didn't know. So Bailey squeezed through a hole about the size of a friggin' softball and was in war with a rat.
Wow.
And yeah, and they're like, "There's no rat down there." And their tiniest guy squeezed back into this. It was right under the cockpit and all the mechanics. And he said, "Yeah, there is," because they both just ran over me, and we didn't catch it. It was so hard down in there, but she found it. And she found it quick, and she found it from up above, walking, in the chairs, and stuck her head in a hole, and just started scratching. And so then we took her down, and she found it pretty quick. So yeah, planes kind of intimidate me now.
A lot of wiring, especially when you see them taken apart like you got the chance to. It's a lot of
Yeah.
wiring in an airplane. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but, are you in what state are you in, Mike?
I'm in Ohio.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yep.
alright. Yeah, I won't fly there. I won't fly to that state now.
So do you drive to how busy are you? Like, how often are you traveling?
Well, Greg was in Houma, Louisiana on the oil rigs doing bed bugs for a month, and he got home, and that next morning we were out the door. So it comes and goes. Sometimes we'll sit, and just love the downtime, get all of our training and all that done, and work on we have a nice facility here, so it's indoor, outdoor kennels. It's a training room. I have ferrets, so we do a lot with the ferrets, and I haven't got as active out with them because of all the rodenticide that's out there, and I'm afraid they'll get a hold of it.
Wait, you use ferrets for rodent detection?
Mhm. So we'll flush the idea is you put them in the burrows and they flush the rats out.
Oh,
And
okay.
you see, we can't use the burrow RX near a foundation.
Yeah,
So
3 feet,
we
right?
just
Stuff like that.
have a ferret in there and poof, out come the rats and the dogs get the rats and leave the ferret alone.
It's
That's
turning
what I
into the
was
old
saying.
woman who lived
Oh,
in a shoe.
What's that?
I said it's turning into the old woman that lived in a shoe. She,
Yeah.
that's what I was saying, though. Oh, to be a passenger in the van, or what, do you drive a big old like Astro van, or what do we
we,
got?
we got a
Astro man. Like
I was like tiny.
just with her 1980s conversion van reference there. I dig it.
A
I like it.
trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen an Astro van for a long time.
Right?
Uh,
Jen, you are too
yeah.
young to know what an Astro van is. Like, Kim and I are old enough to have ridden in them. You may have
Yeah,
seen them in a
yeah.
movie, but I
I had
guarantee you
one in
Jen is
college,
My
so
good
yeah.
friend in high school drove one, and that's what
Sure
just
did.
came to
it's
mind.
hilarious.
We got a big 350 Ford Transit, and so we got it all 6 permanent kennels in there and all types of stuff for gear and shelves, and
Uh,
we're getting ready to get a trailer to do all the road and equipment because I'm just the packing and repacking, we forget stuff all the time, so just leave it in the trailer and go, and then we can have a place where we can go to the bathroom, we can have a place where we can get in to eat, and we can wash our hands because most of these places close up, and we have nowhere to go after they
Yeah.
close, so, you
mhm.
know, some of the apartments now are giving us, like, an apartment to use while we're there. It's always the one they can't rent, it's the one right by the trash dumpster. Nobody
Oh, yeah,
wants so
Yeah.
right by work.
yeah, we get that one. But, yeah, we travel a lot, but we're and it's funny because Greg and I are both homebodies. We had no idea the business would go like this. I was just bored. And it's just gone really well, and it's getting better. Been to Mexico, speaking. We did the Purdue University, so
You did
we're
great there.
oh, were
That was
you
a good
Yep.
were you
mhm.
oh, really? Oh, did I do okay? 'Cause no one's ever said anything.
Right,
You
you
did
did.
great. Yeah,
Yep.
Mike and I did our first in-person podcast there, so I think we'll
That's
try.
right, that's where I saw you go okay, alright. I
That was a
was
lot.
so intimidated up there with Bobby Corrigan, it was Dan Collins or Bobby Corrigan, Dan, and Kim, so
No.
it's like, "Oh my god," and Dan asked me to do it with him. He's like, "Could you, split the stage with me?" 'Cause Dan and I just love him to death, so yeah, that was a great experience for me.
Yeah. No, it was a great flow because it was Bobby, Dan, and then you.
Yeah.
And yeah, it flowed so well and you did a great job. You're a natural at it, so
Oh, thank you.
I thought you did great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Quill, you saw that was the first time that he picked up one, if you know, one fecal. I couldn't believe that I was so excited he got that. And that was the first time I tried it. I was like, well, what can happen? He cannot find it, right?
That was
So,
your little dachshund that went on stage?
huh?
That was the dachshund that went on stage? Is
No,
it dachshund?
no, I brought a Cocker Spaniel. Quill was a Cocker Spaniel.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought it was a littler dog, but
He's little. He's little.
okay.
Yeah, he's little. Not that little, but he's little.
Oh,
So, but no, Mike, I'd love to come up and work with you sometime at there in Rent-A-Kill. So,
Yeah, we'll stay in touch and we'll get out there and I want to see ferrets. I want to be honest with you. Do you know what I mean? Look, Kim, I'm gonna tell you something. I think many years ago, before the bed bug dogs and the rodent dogs became more mainstream, I will be honest, I was skeptical of the whole thing, right?
yeah,
And, it took me going out in the field and having a dog find bed bugs in a place that we would have never found bed bugs.
yeah.
It was in a huge hospital, in the emergency room, in a closet where they stored abandoned patient belongings.
Wow.
And this dog hit on it was like one of those plastic things you get at Home Depot, do you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like cabinet things, and this dog hit on that, and after going through the belongings, we ended up finding bed bugs in there,
Isn't that
and
amazing?
it that sold me, do you know what I mean? So, I think for people that are skeptical for any reason, you nail it on the head, finding a good handler, right,
Yeah.
with a well-trained dog, um, great things happen when you're out in the field.
Oh, it does. And it raises the probability of finding them. That's what dogs do. They raise the probability of finding what we can't see. And it's just and it's not infallible. It's a team effort, and it's gotta be looked as a team effort. But I've gone out with handlers who their dogs will search, and they really don't invest their time in that search. They're just letting their dog search, and if their dog alerts, "Okay, there's bugs," and they leave. I'm like, "Oh, no, you gotta find those bugs." And that in the bed bug world is kind of one of the philosophies we don't need to verify. We do need to verify.
Mhm.
We have to verify. If we don't verify, it's just a half a search, and it's not a fair search. So we need to verify for the client, for the expense, the time for the pest control company. So that's kind of my stand on it. It hasn't been a very popular one, but it's my stand that we need to verify.
I think
Mm.
that that's evidence that that you are doing some training for Kim too, not just the dog, right? Like I'm
Yeah,
learning biology, I'm learning behaviors. I can identify these things, right? So once again, I think it's just an investment in if you're going to charge a premium dollar amount for a service, then people would expect a premium return on that. And I think that's a
that's
piece.
right.
I think you nailed it.
That's right.
Mm.
Do the full search.
Yeah.
Don't half-ass it.
Yeah.
I
Perfect.
say that part.
Yes.
We can edit that out too. It's perfect.
No, we're gonna keep that in there. But thank you to you and your husband for coming out of retirement. I do wonder what your husband did in a past life before he was kind of drug
Well,
into
he
this. I'm sure he
he
has fun.
he reminds me every day he's retired, and every day I'm like, "No, you said you wanted to travel." He goes, "Not in a dumpster in Texas." I'm like, "You
I was just gonna say,
should have
not
been
on an
more
oil rig in the
specific."
Gulf of Mexico, right?
That's
Like
right.
it's not
So
travel. Yeah.
he worked for Georgia Power, and he was one of only 2 people in the country that inspects nuclear, transformers.
Oh,
So
nice.
Oh,
he would
wow.
travel out overseas, and he would inspect the transformer before they put it in the box and before we paid millions to have it transferred here. And then anytime a transformer went down or needed to be inspected here, the big run through, you could drive a bus through some of these things. He would be the one that would go out and inspect those. He knew
Mm.
nothing about dogs. So that's how I met him. I trained his dog. That's how I met him. So I trained his dog, and I was walking a park with him, walking the dog, and the dog's just yakking and barking. I was like, "Give me the dog." And he gave me the dog, and the dog's like, "Okay, I'll walk now," and just did
Wow.
this great job. And his idea of telling a dog to sit was sit, and
Hmm.
couldn't figure out why I sat too at the same time. It's like, but he's put so much time into this company. He has put in, he's an amazing trainer. I mean, he does a lot of my obedience training now. He does a good job. So he
Wow.
just needs a little more beach time than he's getting.
I understand.
You
Greg
you
deserves
know
that.
that's love when you've retired
Yeah.
and you chose to dumpster dive with your wife on on a
Yes, I mean,
site,
that's love,
right?
right?
Oh,
That is true
I have
love
the
right
best
there.
pictures of him crawling and hand catching rats and crawling in
Yes,
a dumpster.
exactly, right? He'd be sipping Mai Tais on a beach, but no.
No, he's in a dumpster.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I mean, the saying of "this is a dumpster fire" kind of applies to them more
It
so
Yeah,
than
does.
yeah. I dig it. Awesome.
So, but
Thank
no,
you, thank you, thank you for being here. All the success to you guys. This
thank
is
you.
such a worthwhile service, and I know it's just going to keep growing. So thank you.
Thank you for having me on. I'm honored. This is just fantastic. I never really have a lot to say. I feel like I just ramble about everything, but
No, you did a
We
great
love it.
job. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll talk soon, okay?
thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kim.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye bye.